Hi, my friend, and welcome to the Good Girl Syndrome Show. Today, I have an episode that I think you'll find super useful because it's all about relationships. It's primarily about friendships, specifically the ones that you would either call toxic or, the ones that are not so great for you, right? Um, but it could also apply, like the exact same things that I'm going to talk about today could also apply to a romantic relationship that isn't working for you. It's the same type of patterns, and also the root causes are exactly the same. So if you're interested in that conversation, if you could use that right now, or someone that you know could really use that information right now, keep on watching and keep listening. Before I dive into what this woman in my audience, Camille, sent to me, right, and I start coaching and mentoring, um, it may it may so be that you do not know me, and so if that is the case, I want to quickly introduce myself to you, just so that you understand what my background is and why I'm doing all of this. So my name is Julie, as you probably gathered, Julie Vander Meulen. I'm half Belgian, half Greek. I used to be a researcher. I was doing a PhD in political science, and then I stopped all that after 5 years, and I completely rerouted. There's different steps in all of that. But the final point for now, at least, is I have been for the past few years what I call an empowerment coach for high achieving women. Um, and I have developed a concept. There was a concept that already existed called good girl syndrome. A psychologist had came up with the idea. And I developed my own theory and framework and tools that I use in my own coaching sessions. First of all, I developed them for myself to help myself because I realized like why I was interested in this topic was because I realized that I was a good girl, right? I was behaving like a good girl. And so I started mapping some behaviors that I had. And then, I have a bit of a nerdy brain. So then I started doing that with the women around me and asking different questions. And then I started developing this whole concept and theory, and I started applying it to my coaching. And so the Good Girl Syndrome show, what you're watching right now, is essentially a practical version of that. Like, I wanted to do two things. I wanted to bring awareness to this concept, not because I want you to have a new label, something else to be able to judge yourself by. That's not at all my goal. My goal was that, to me, being able to see these different patterns and how they were working together, it really helped me in my own journey to, one, better understand myself, two, give myself some love and some compassion, but three, perhaps the most important one of all, at least the one that we secretly want, is it allowed me to change, to realize, oh, this is not a me thing. This is a pattern. And so if it's a pattern, I can understand what the pattern is, and I can choose differently now that I understand it, if I want to, right? And so that is really my goal here, is that one, I would bring awareness to this, and two, it's that by me giving you practical examples from my own life. That's what I do on the Sunday episodes. I talk about my own life and how I shifted a pattern in my own life so that you can see if you resonate with that. And then every Wednesday, today's a Wednesday episode, I actually answer a real person. Someone in my audience has a context and a situation and a question, right? That I answer as if I were in a coaching session or a mentoring session with them. One, I'm helping them, but indirectly, then I have content for free that anyone in the world, doesn't matter their income, doesn't matter what they want to do, they don't have to come for a one-on-one coaching session with me. By the way, if you're interested in a coaching session, I'm currently enrolling my clients between now and the end of June, the 30th of June, 2026. So if you're interested in that, go check the description box. There's a link there where you can find out how to work with me. But if you can't afford it, or you don't want some coaching, or I'm not the coach that you want, but you still want the information, then the information is there, right? And so that was my goal with this. I'm going to start in a second. I'm just going to ask you one more thing. I always do this when I start. My friend, if you've been enjoying this show, if you love what I stand for, what I just told you about, if you like me, if you enjoy my company, right? And if you want to support me supporting other women through this channel, please show me some love and engage with me in some way. You know how the algorithms work. The more you engage with me, the more, I rise up, but also then the more my message is uncovered by other people. So if you feel called, if you want to show me some love and support me and encourage me in some way, put a like to this video, comment below, whatever it is. Subscribe if you haven't already. Send this to someone else that you think, could really, really use it. Whatever you will do, or just send me some love through the camera. That works too. I'm very grateful for any type of, kindness and love that you send my way. So thank you so much for watching. Now, let's move on to the actual meat of this video. Let's talk about our friend Camille. So Camille wrote to me. Camille wrote to me in French, so I translated this. I hope I did a good job, Camille, and thank you, by the way, for your question. So let me read it first. Camille says, I just don't understand myself. I keep letting people into my life that are clearly not good for me. Who can relate, right? There's this pattern where someone comes in, very intense, very admiring, almost obsessed with me at first. Then something shifts and they become critical or distant. And, crucial part, and instead of stepping away, I try harder, right? So instead of stepping away when someone is being critical with her, what she does is, her response is she tries harder. She's not done. She has more. I also keep certain friends around that I secretly don't even really like or respect. Very honest. They drain me. I never really want to see them, but I don't know. I can't just let them go and not respond. She says afterwards, I feel really ashamed writing this. And then she continues, I guess my question is, why do I keep choosing people who make me feel small? And also, why is it so hard for me to let go? Yeah. I'm smiling and, just thinking about this because I can really relate to all of this. Not so much in my life right now. I am very, very well surrounded right now. Thank you to my friends. I don't know if they're watching me, but I'm putting it out there that I'm really, really grateful for the friends that I do have right now and to my partner. But I used to not have the healthiest relationships in my life. And I had both of these scenarios that Camille is talking about. And I understand how hard it can be both to be in the situation and also to move away from it, because it's all you really know, right? So I'm going to do what I often do. Perhaps not always, but I often do, which is I'm going to go segment by segment and respond to the different things that you said there, Camille. So you keep letting people who are clearly not good for you. Okay, but there's like two different types of people you're allowing. Let's go for the first one. So you said there's this pattern where someone comes in very intense, very admiring, almost obsessed with me at first. Then something shifts and they become critical or distant. And instead of stepping away, I try harder. So what our current culture says, or at least what's very popular on social media, is to give this type of behavior a name. It's usually called love bombing. I don't know if you've heard this before. And I understand what this is about. I understand why they're saying this and what could be wrong with it. However, so if you're interested in that, Camille, you can go and check that out, what love bombing is. It's basically you give a lot of love in the beginning and then you retain it, right? It's usually associated with toxic behaviors and what they call toxic people. And sometimes they, the type of people that we call narcissists. That's like how I would say our pop culture is now explaining this type of phenomenon, which is an explanation. I'm not necessarily against it. I tend to be a little cautious with calling people toxic and blaming other people for specific behaviors and very easily saying that people are narcissists and they can't change and, all this type of thing. To me is there's some part that I completely agree with. I do believe that there's some people who are narcissists, and I believe that there are people who are particularly toxic. But I also believe in a culture where we don't always blame the other person and where we can see two things at once, where we can see that this person has a toxic behavior that is unacceptable. And at the same time, if I am in a toxic relationship, while this person has a degree of toxicity that can be high to low, right? Depends on the situation. I find it very useful to also look at like, why am I behaving the way that I'm behaving? If this person is so toxic for me, what is it about me, right? Not me as if I'm a flawed human being, me as in what is it in my behaviors, in my thought patterns, what isn't in my story, right? In my history that makes me feel like this is acceptable, right? And to me, the useful thing in that is not necessarily spending so much time thinking about how toxic this person is and you being obsessed with the degree of toxicity of this other person. I am more interested in identifying that this is a toxic person, or at least if it's not a toxic person, it's at least someone that I don't want around. As simple as that. I don't want this person around. I don't feel good around them. I don't like their behavior. I don't, find that they're mistreating me, whatever it is, right? Acknowledging that and then moving away and being able to do that, right? So I'm more interested in that. And so sometimes I find that this theory of love bombing, while I can clearly see it, I can clearly see the thing, I find that like the bigger objective of that is to do like a lot of black and white type of understandings of things, of saying, for example, anyone who's passionate, right, is love bombing you, and so that's a behavior that you don't want to have in your life. Which, if that resonates with you, why not? To me, what that means is, probably I'm biased because I'm a passionate person myself. And the people that I have around me are also passionate people. I love people who are like deeply into a relationship, and that we don't need, whether romantically or in friendship, that like I can see someone and really, really like them from the beginning, And I don't see why I need to play any of the games of like, now it's too soon. I don't want to love bomb them, and I don't want to. I find that like this adds a layer of complexity and of like bad intention to things that sometimes it's just passion, right? So I personally don't have an issue with people being passionate. I don't have an issue with spontaneity. I don't have an issue with someone love bombing me, right? And like really, really liking me from the beginning, and me really, really liking them, right? And I don't necessarily think that people who behave in this way in the beginning will not continue to do that, are necessarily malintentioned, and that it's necessarily a trait that they're toxic people. So up to you, Camille, to see if what resonates with you. If you think the love bombing theory is something that would really, really help you, I really encourage you to go see. There's many, many people who talk about that. I really encourage you to go and check that out. This is not what I'm going to be talking about here, but I want you to have the information if that is useful for you. By the way, at some point in my life, it was useful for me to have that theory as well. It's afterwards that I was like, I think for me, at least, it lacks a little bit of nuance. And then I didn't know, like I was wondering if I was a type of person who was love bombing other people. And then I started wondering, am I a narcissist and a toxic person and so on? So I went into a whole blame type of thing for myself and for others. And I realized this is not helping me. It helped me for a little bit. And then I realized it's not helping me. It's putting yet another label. And for me, as a high-achieving good girl, it gave me yet another reason to be judging myself and wondering, what's wrong with me and all these different things, right? So that's why I prefer to move aside from that. So to me, I would say in the situation that you described, my issue with it, like if we were in a coaching session, I wouldn't say like to identify people who are overly intense and remove them from your life. Unless you really don't like intensity, then that's a choice. And like in general, I like people who are very calm and grounded, and I love a very, very slow pace. Then that is a choice, right? That's up to you, Camille, to see what is true for you and all of that. If you don't mind people who are intense, and I would imagine you don't mind because you're here and I'm pretty intense, right? And so if you don't mind people who are intense, so at least some of the people, that's not a criteria for you to eliminate people from your life, then I would say that to me, the issue here begins when this person starts disrespecting you and mistreating you, right? This is to me where I would be like, if it wasn't in my own life, I'd be like, what is this behavior? And I would address it with the person, be like, this is not acceptable, right? And if they continued, if it was a one-time thing, I suppose that can happen. Although I will say that I don't know one person in my life, none of my friends or my partner are not people who do that, right? I have some people from my past who can behave that way, who have behaved in a specific way and changed because we addressed it. And I also, perhaps it's useful for me to acknowledge that as well, because perhaps you can resonate with that as well. I have also had all sorts of toxic behaviors, right? What we call toxic behaviors, behaviors that are destructive and not constructive for myself, but also for others. Not because I was consciously trying to harm them, right? But because I didn't know any better. I repeated what I had seen from my family, from my school, from the world around me. I thought that some behaviors were okay when they were not, right? And I have been able to change. So not only have I been a better person, not better person, but better able at recognizing who is a good person for me, right? A good person for my environment. But in the process of that, I have also questioned myself into like, what are the toxic behaviors that I am bringing to the table and that I don't want to be doing now that I know better, right? Like, I don't want to be doing to someone else what I don't like being done to me, right? And so it goes back to what I was saying about the love bombing theory, that to me, I love doing this reciprocity type of thing, to say, if someone is doing something bad to you, they're mistreating you, that's on them, right? That's on them 100%, right? I'm not blaming you for not at all. But what I am saying is that if you have a tendency to go towards people who mistreat you, that one, you're attracted to them, and two, you stay in those, it also says something about you. Not that there's something wrong with you, not anything like that. Most likely it means, by the way, I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach. So if that is one of the situations that you face, don't forget to go and check out a therapist that you really trust to be able to heal some of those things. Because usually it can come from baggage that you have from your past, a specific way that you were treated or that you felt, and now you're reproducing that, right? So it's really worth going to a therapist or doing some sort of healing, with regards to your past and what has caused this, right? And so what I'm trying to say here is that there is a degree of responsibility, even when we are a victim of a situation, to say, I will not put myself through this again. If I encounter such a person, I need to be able to leave that situation. I need to know what a healthy behavior is and what a toxic behavior is. Because something in my understanding of love, of what I deserve, what I'm worthy of, and what love is, something is amiss. And I need to change that for myself, right? No blame, just empowerment of saying, I have a choice. Every single person who is in my life, including my family, is my choice. It's my choice, right? So if people don't treat me well, I can have the choice to say no to this person, right? And also, if I don't like someone, even if they don't mistreat me, I also have a choice to let them go, right? So to me, that is the basis here. So the issue here is, one, that they start mistreating you, right? That's on them, fully on them. And then afterwards, there's different steps here. One, you see it, right? And your response is you try harder, is what you said. I think that's how you said it. Yeah. Instead of stepping away, you said, I try harder. So you should be stepping away, because I didn't speak to you about this. You said, instead of stepping away, I try harder. So you know that this person is treating you badly, and then there's a shortcut in your mind that says, so for some reason that is acceptable. I don't know why. You will have to search, into like why this, like where this is coming from. That's the therapy part. And then your reaction to this is, I will try harder. I will be better. So most probably you're making excuses for that person. Perhaps, they don't know what they're doing, or they're weak in a specific way. Like, that's what you think, right? They need some care. It's because they haven't been loved enough. It's because they're under pressure. I don't know what excuse you make for them, right? And then you think, how I'm going to fix it is I'm going to fix me. It's a very, very good girl behavior. It's also a behavior of someone who has been mistreated in some way. It can be verbally, can be emotionally, doesn't always have to be physically, although physically and sexually is also a thing that many good girls have in their lives. Not all, but many. And so to me, the two things that I would address in that, my friend, is number one, why is this happening to you? I don't know, perhaps you've already been to therapy, perhaps you know, but I would go to therapy. That would be one of the options, right? And the second thing that I would say is, if when you're in such a situation, there is a lot of intensity, not just from the other person, but inside of you. And so it makes you think differently. It makes you feel like some things are acceptable when they're not because you're making an exception for that person. I think one is in advance. Like now, when you're watching this and you ask me for all of this, well done for the awareness, by the way, because it's a very, very difficult pattern to see in ourselves. And you are asking me for help, which most of us don't do, right? We like to do things on our own. And also, you mentioned being ashamed towards the end. It's why I kept that sentence, because I think it's important for us to know that, like, specifically when we are ashamed is when we, as humans in general, but specifically good girls, it's the moment when we least want to ask for help. Because we feel so ashamed, we feel unworthy, we feel less than, and we don't want anyone to see us in that way. So I just wanted to applaud you for that, that you came into this space and you asked for help at a moment when probably in the past you would never have done so. So that's a really, really good sign, my friend, as well. And what I would say to you is make a list. Make a list of like what is acceptable and unacceptable, and have that list somewhere. I know it sounds simplistic. I know that you feel like you know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, but I would love for you to write that list and to look at, like, go look. I would imagine this is not, you're describing, I think, a specific situation right now. I don't know. But look at this situation. It's probably happened before that you've had people like that in your life. And when you make the list, look at all the behaviors where someone has really hurt you or mistreated you and disrespected you, and put them on the unacceptable list. So that if this behavior happens again, you have a red flag in your mind. You're like, signal, alarm, right? This is not a good thing. And you can address it the first time that it happens. It doesn't matter if the person has an excuse for it, if it's because they're angry or because, no. Like, if the person doesn't apologize, number one, and number two, if they don't change the behavior, right? Because some people are very good at apologizing and making excuses, and they never change the behavior, which keeps you stuck. So those two things, if a person acts this way, right, and it's not a single mistake, it's something that they keep doing and doing and doing, and they have excuses for it, and or at some point they blame you for it, this is a no-go. This is a no-go. And you have your list now, your checklist, where you're like, these are the things that I, not society, not the world, right? Not the love bombing thing. You choose what is a sign of respect to you, what makes you feel loved. This is what is acceptable and what I want, right? And this is what is unacceptable and I will not tolerate in my life, right? Be very clear on those before you even meet these people, right? And if they don't like what you say, that's fine. The reason why they don't like what you say is because it makes them feel ashamed of themselves, right? And no one wants to feel ashamed of themselves. It's easier to blame someone else than to take responsibility for the yuck that's inside of you, right? So that's what I would do with that first thing. Go to therapy, make a list, and when you notice the things like they're unacceptable, keep this in your mind. It is unacceptable that someone is mistreating you or disrespecting you. And so you need to say something. And if they, keep making excuses and the behavior doesn't change, it has to change on this, this can only be a one instance type of thing. Like for very, very disrespectful behaviors, it's not and there's some behaviors I would even say, like, I don't know what degree of disrespect and mistreatment we're talking about here. Some behaviors, like harming you physically, is unacceptable. It's never acceptable. It's not a question of he will never do it again or she will never do it again, right? So the standards are yours. You make your own list. But to me, there's degrees of things that are acceptable and unacceptable. Some things make you feel like, what, this person has a lot of work to do and I will not be, the one enduring this suffering while they make the progress, right? Because I'm not a savior. We will talk about the savior type of mentality afterwards. And some behaviors, I think, deserve a second chance, right? Some things can be that this person did not realize, or they've never had someone tell them that, or they just, it happens. We're all human. There's some things that you can do that, you don't behave in the right way. But there should be like small things, and they should be fixed by this person. They should actively be changing the behavior. Hope this is helpful, my friend. Your question was your question and situation is very deep, and a little touchy too, right? So I'm going into it how I would, be handling it myself, or how I would be coaching and mentoring someone that I had in a session, but this is uncomfortable for me too, as much as I imagine it is for you, Camille. So the second part was another type of friendships that you mentioned. You said, I also keep certain friends around that I secretly don't even like or respect. They drain me. I never really want to see them, but I don't know. I can't just let them go and not respond. My intuition here tells me that this here is a similar pattern to the one before, of like allowing people to mistreat you or to disrespect you and so on and so forth. In the sense that the thing from before is patterns you learned probably from childhood or at some point, right? That you thought that love was like, that being disrespected was part of love, right? And in there is a sensation of not being enough, of not being good enough, right? And so you accept whatever treatment because you don't think you deserve better. You think that this is how love is supposed to be, but this is how you are supposed to be receiving love because that's all you deserve. And a lot of, for example, battered women will have the sensation of, yeah, but like he did that because like he hurt me because I made a mistake, or I did, like we can internalize as a victim of a situation, we can internalize the sensation that it's our fault. And so because then you see this also in the theories that they have around battered children, that they have a tendency to like internalize the blame because then they have a sense of control, right? Children like that can get a sense of control, that like perhaps if they do better, if they do this, then everything will change and everything will be okay, right? It's a survival mechanism that unfortunately some of us we carry into adulthood, and we continue these things. But what I'm getting to here is, if you look at it, there's a sensation of I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be treated well by my partner, by my friend, and so on and so forth. Like I therefore tolerate things that for someone else would be unacceptable because I don't think I deserve better. Or I think this person who is mistreating me I put them on a pedestal. I think they're better than me. And so if they're doing that, it means there's something wrong with me, right? These types of stories, I don't know which story resonates with you. I'm just acting out typical stories that could come up. And here it's also a sensation of not being good enough. It's a mixed sensation of I'm too good for them, in a sense of like, this is not who I want to be around. Like I'm bothered by them. And at the same time, I'm not good enough to hope for something better, right? I need to be loyal to the people that I don't even like or respect. I need to be friends with them because then what? Like I will have no friends, right? And also because when people, when you have people around you who really, really like you and you don't like them, you receive a lot of significance. You feel like you're important. You feel like, and especially if in general you feel like you're not good enough, these people also make sure that your ego gets a little pat, like a little hug, right? That like, oh, someone does like me. It so happens that it's someone that I don't like and don't respect, so I don't know how much it's worth, right? But at least it gives me a something. So it's basically a sort of scarcity mindset, right? The opposite of an abundance mindset. It's basically, what if there's no one else? What if that's all I'm worth? What if I don't deserve anything better? What if I'm, all alone? Like these types of mentalities. Now I'm going to say something else, which is a little touchy, but I'm still going to say it because I can see it, especially when I'm volunteering in the Tony Robbins world. I'm seeing this happen quite a bit, which is, what if, and take this with a grain of salt because I don't know the exact context and situation. And when I was talking before about mistreatment, I went into every type of, like every degree of mistreatment, right? So I'm going to assume here that we're not talking about, you just mentioned that someone becomes critical, distant with you, right? We were not talking about an abusive relationship or anything like that. So I'm going to go back to that framework of you're just with someone who's critical and distant and doesn't make you feel very loved, right? One of your friends. in the beginning, everything is phenomenal, and afterwards they're a bit, they don't want to talk to you anymore. You don't know what's going on. You're walking on eggshells. These types of situations, not the other ones. In that context, I am wondering, in a coaching session, I would probably ask you, and it's a real question. I do not have the answer to that. You have to be honest with yourself. Could it be, my friend, that when you are with these friends of yours that you don't like and don't respect, that you yourself are recreating a similar pattern to the one that you don't like of the situation before? Meaning, are you also, when you're with people that you feel are not good enough for you, that you can also behave in this way of being neglectful and, like being critical and being distant with them and being a little harsher with them? Is that a possibility? Perhaps it's a straight no. It's like, no, I don't behave like that at all. Cool, move on. If it is the case, then, if it is the case that it's a yes, that sometimes you can see that you don't really like how you're behaving with these people, and it's part of why you feel ashamed, right? Because you're basically doing to others what you receive as well. And so you're in a yuck type of situation of like, you can see that it's like all the same dynamics. Then the good news in that is that if that is the case, then you understand what is going on with that, with these situations. You understand that you are pulled towards specific dynamics in your life, right? Because probably that's all you've ever known, right? And I'm really sorry that's all you've ever known. But I think it's important to be aware of that and to accept it, to see that, oh, I am not used to being on an equal type of relationship where we are both really, really happy to be there and steady, right? Steady in this relationship that we want to be friends, right? Forever, whatever the thing is. It's like either, like I get into these intense relationships and either this person is superior and I'm inferior, or I'm superior and they're inferior. And, does the mechanics, like the logistics of like whether how disrespectful you are and the other people are, it's to some degree important because you don't want to, you don't want to be mean to others also, but also you don't want to be disrespected. So there it matters. Before, what I'm saying here is just like, it's useful to see that the bigger thing behind it, there's the I'm not good enough, there's my past, going to the therapist, seeing what that is about, but there's also, am I capable right now? It's an honest question. Answer with yourself, within yourself, am I capable right now of having equal relationships, equal partnerships, where no one is superior and no one is inferior, where we are both, there's no power struggle in a relationship, right? Where someone holds all the power and the other one is afraid that they will let go, right? And so this person who is inferior in an inferior position becomes very needy because they're very afraid of abandonment, right? Like these types of dynamic, this person becomes harsher and more distant and more, you can see how this can play out. I don't know if you've had these types of dynamics in your life. I've certainly have. And I've had both. I've been in both situations. And I was not trying to be harsh to people. But I was neglectful. I was critical. These people irritated me. I didn't want to see them, like I lacked a specific type of respect when I was talking with them, right? And it took for me a good hard look in the mirror to say, actually, none of my relationships work for me. None of my relationships work for me. Because I am incapable, not now, but I was, right? At the time, I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, I actually have no frame of reference for a healthy relationship. And I have no frame of reference for a horizontal type of relationship, a relationship when we're both equal, where there's no power struggle, it's love, right? It's just love and mutual admiration, and we're so happy for one another. All my relationships are like that now. A few years ago, it wasn't the case, right? So, yeah. Then you asked, why do I keep choosing people who make me feel small, right? I think I answered that. You also asked, why is it so hard for me to let go? I think I unpacked that. The thing that I would add, though, I was funny because I was talking to one of my best friends yesterday about that as well. She's in a situation where someone in her life who has a big impact on her, and she can't just decide to let them go because there's attachments beyond herself, right? that are important to her family unit, she has to listen to someone else tell her all the time how terrible she is as a person, right? And as a mom and so on and so forth, which is very difficult. And yesterday we were having a conversation where, because she's always listening to these feedbacks, right, from this person who right now doesn't have the best intention with her, she questions her integrity, she questions her character, she questions a lot of things, right? And I reminded her of a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm terrible at repeating quotes, I just remember the essence of it. And I think the quote goes something like, no one can make you feel small but you. And to me, that's something that I read, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, a long, long time ago now. And I've carried it with me ever since. Because every time that I feel bad and I feel like, why is this person like making me feel bad? Like, why are they? I'm like, no. It goes back to the beginning of what I was telling you, right? Yes, so this person is being mean to me, right? Okay, they're mean to me. They're saying something that I don't like. That's on them. You know what I mean? Like, that's on them. I don't have to, like, listen to that. I don't have to integrate. You know what I mean? Like, someone can be saying the most horrible thing and I could just be laughing. It is possible. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible to just be like, okay, nowadays, for example, if you asked me 3-4 years ago, I was so susceptible to criticism that any harsh comment on the internet was making me feel like I could not post anything for another 3-4 weeks because I was like so ashamed and trapped in a type of spiral in my head. Nowadays I post so much and have so much rejection and so much. I have a lot of love, way more love than rejection, but I also, in the process of all of that, receive the most random comments, right? People who call me a chick who like is ugly, who is this, who is that, like so many things that people talk about, and like I'm right there. They're commenting on my things. So they're talking about me with someone else, like publicly about me. And this whole thing, this quote, why I'm saying that to you, Camille, is because to me it's helped me a lot. I'm like, no one can make me feel bad but myself. Do I think I'm ugly? No. And do I care if like some random man on the internet thinks I'm ugly? No. What I care about is that I find myself pretty, right? Most days. And I care that my partner finds me attractive, right? Do I care that any person on the internet that I haven't even seen, if it so happens they're very ugly, right? I don't know, because they're hiding behind an avatar on the internet. Like, why am I caring about what someone else is thinking, right? So it's harder when it's someone who's closer to you, right? But I find it very interesting to be able to separate the fact that someone can do a specific thing and you still have a choice of like what you do with it. I find that the gap, like understanding and perceiving that there is a gap between those two things and there is a choice involved in there, like an empowered type of way of seeing the situation, I find that really, really beautiful. Because then what my friend came up with afterwards was, that is true. I don't respect this person's opinions in general. So why am I listening to the opinion that is about me when in general, I don't think that their opinions are valid, right? And poof, just disappeared, right? Give her back all her power and she stopped thinking about all of these different things. So about this sentence of like, why do I keep choosing people who make me feel small? The assumption from everything that we've talked about today is because you already feel small to a certain extent, my friend, right? You already feel that way, right? And so you are consciously or unconsciously gravitating towards people who will confirm that belief and will reinforce that belief. So to me, the work there is you have all the tips that I gave you about different friends, who to remove and so on and so forth. But the real work behind it is, how can you do that beautiful inner work of reconnecting with yourself and seeing yourself in a new way? It won't happen overnight. You won't fall madly in love with yourself, magically. But you can grow that. I used to really hate who I was. I used to not want to be alive. I used to have very, very dark thoughts most of my life. Nowadays, they're not present. They're not present at all. Not these steps. I still have days where I feel not as good. I have all these ebbs and flows like everyone else, but it's uncomparable to how I used to suffer internally. And that was an inner work. Part of it was therapy, right? Strongly, strongly encouraging it. But a lot of it was coaching, a lot of it was seminars, a lot of it was reading. And I would say for the most part, it was mostly in my own head that I made realizations. I was very committed to my own self-reflection and to doing a little better every single day. I was very committed to this journey, and I encourage you to do the same, because if you learn to like stack positive information about yourself that you truly, truly believe, not things that other people say that you don't believe, but you start to feel proud of yourself, you start to feel all sorts of different things about yourself, then people can tell you whatever they want. It doesn't really matter, because you have formed your own opinion about yourself. You don't need someone else to come in and tell you that you're beautiful, not beautiful, and all of these different things, right? It doesn't have to impact you in any way. And the last thing that I'm going to say, and I'm going to end on this, I think this is going to be a long one. I would say that the solution to all of this, right? We talked about just now about self-love. I think it's also in terms of your friendships and your relationships is, if all you've ever known are these types of patterns, it's not like you can go and look into your history or into your environment to build something new. So that means that you have the difficult, but also really, really beautiful and empowering choice of creating your own reality, at least envisioning a new reality. And you can imagine all of that. So you can, I'm sure you watch movies, I'm sure you read, I don't know if you read books, I don't know what you do, right? But I'm sure there's like some model somewhere that you can see where you're like, I like that. I mean, I like the whole relationship, but I like this one thing that they do, right? I don't know, let me invent something. I can tell you about me. One of the things that I knew was very important to me is I love loyal people. I love being in relationships that stand the test of time. I love being with people who are genuinely kind, and who it's like their character is like that they're kind, and they have all a different way. We all have a different code of ethics, but they have a pretty good code of ethics, if you see what I mean. Like I trust them, that it's not just that they behave well with me, but that's who they actually are. And so as a result, as a consequence, they will also behave that way with me. Like I had these things that I was thinking, I would really love that. Like that would make me feel safe. That would make me feel loved. That would make me feel, like I'm inspired. These are people who inspire me. And so I created a sort of list again, like a vision for what my friendships would look like. And most importantly, besides of what they look like, because sometimes we're like, oh, I want someone who listens to the same music as me, or I want someone that I can go to the theater with me, or like whatever it is for you. And why not, right? But I don't think that like deep friendships are only built on interests. I have some friends, I have almost no interests in common with them. Like we talk about our real lives, and we talk about us as human beings, and that we have in common. But how they go on vacation, how they live their life, right? What they do in their free time, like how they prioritize work on, is all completely different from me. Completely different from me. And I don't want to live their life, and they don't want to live my life. But I love and admire them, and they love and admire me, right? And so I think creating a vision for what you would like, and more specifically, how you want to feel with those people, right? And how you want them to feel around you. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful way to start this journey, right? So make that list that we talked about in the beginning of like what's unacceptable, so that you don't tolerate bad behavior. And then once that part, go to therapy if it's necessary, right? And then start evolving, start creating the new version of like, this is how I'm going to treat myself, the self-love. And as a part of that, I'm going to create a vision for who is loving with me and who I'm loving with, and what that's going to look like, and how that's going to feel like. And I think once you start doing that, you will see huge ripple effects in your life, because very clearly already from your list, like your list and your vision, you will see that all the people, at least all the things that you've described here, they're not aligned with what you want. They're not aligned with what you want, and they make you feel bad. And that is not a way to live, my friend. That is not a way to live. And I know that you can have a scarcity type of mindset where you're thinking, but am I going to be alone? No, you're not going to be alone. There's, I don't know how many billions of people on this planet, right? All it takes is for you to go outside and to meet someone new. I'm not telling you that every person that you will meet will be your best friend, but there's many, many people in this life, and there's many, many people who are healthy and kind and want good friends too, right? A lot of people who want good friends and are in transitions and so on and so forth. So you have every chance to meet someone or someone's, like multiple people who are really your people, and it makes huge difference, a huge, huge difference in your life, truly. So I really wish you all the best, Camille. I hope that this was useful to you or to anyone who was watching or listening. I know it was a bit of a heavier topic, but yeah, I thank you for sending me that, because I think many of us good girls, we are, like I often say, we have a perfect CV, we have a perfect image on the outside, and oftentimes there's situations that we live on the inside that are taboo, right? And we don't know how to handle, and because we like doing things on our own, and we really we find it really, really important for us to project a specific image of strength, of independence, of different things, of capability, all these things that make us feel more worthy. Oftentimes we won't ask for help, and we won't show what is actually really hurting us inside. And so many, many of us have or have had these types of emotional situations, relationships type of situations, that we talk to no one. So hopefully, if this is you right now, this was a message of hope. I know I shook you a little bit, Camille, but I hope you could see that my heart was in a good place. It's just because I wanted to make sure that if you are in a terrible situation, you or someone else watching, that you don't stay in that you understand what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, and that there are things in life where you need some rules, right? Like, it's not okay for someone to hurt you in any way. It's not okay, right? It's unacceptable. So yeah, I hope that was useful for you. I think that's it for now. I'm going to leave you now. I will see you on Sunday, where I'm going to talk about this topic of like how I used to be in a pattern of always saving people, and what that looked like, how I used to think, and how that has changed throughout the years and where I am right now. So if you're interested in that, it depends when you're watching this, but go check the Sunday episode. That will be out about that. And also, if this is an area that you really want to work on, go subscribe to my newsletter. It's free if you haven't already. It will come out on Sunday, and you will have the exact exercises. You will get a little recap of what we talked about this week on the show. But more importantly, you will also receive some actual integration exercises so that you can make sure to apply some of the things that we talked about, right? So that you can actually do exercises and apply them, so that you can make those changes right now, this week, so that this doesn't happen to you ever again. So if you're interested in that, go check the description box and subscribe to the newsletter. I think that's it, my friend. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy doing this with you, even when it's deep and it's harder conversations. I really enjoy having this space with all of you. And yeah, I'm sending you tons of love. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you on Sunday. Bye.